People, Deluded, I'm back again. Good morning, and I hope you're all doing well and safe. As we know, there's just 2 weeks or so before the transfer window is closed. Arsenal need to get a move on. Arsenal need to do the business. We need to move some players on. We need to bring in Aouar and Partey. We're going to get onto Aouar in just a sec. Like I said, we also need to move people on. And I know there's been a lot of focus in relation to Aouar and Partey's name specifically. I know this week you've seen Coutinho, despite being given a new number at Barcelona, his links have reappeared. Jorginho's been the new face sort of thrown into things. So what my point is with that, the quicker you get Aouar and Partey done, I don't know if the club have other priorities, if they want, Arteta might want a left back, for example. So the quicker we get things done, the quicker we can move forward. Now, it's no secret, yeah. If it came down to Houssem Aouar or Thomas Partey, I want both. Both players are needed. Away from the actual players, focus on their profiles and skill sets. We need a box-to-box man. We need someone who can break the lines. But I can't lie, as much as I love Partey and I really want him, and please don't mistake that for a second, Aouar is the one if it came to it, which I want. He's someone I've wanted from 2016, 2017, and you can see that with my tweets and whatnot. Not that I was some mystical bull. He's just a player. When you're just following a team and following a player and you can't help but dream of one day that player playing for you. I really love Aouar as a footballer. I think there's scope to get better, and I do think that should also play a part. Not that I want my club to be recognised as a stepping stone, because regardless of if Arsenal are 20th or 1st, we've still done what we've needed to do in the league. But he's been linked with Juventus and Barcelona. Apparently he had his heart set on them and there's been no offers. You come to Arsenal, you get your feet wet, you develop to another level and take your game up. These teams will come back to you. How old is he? Like 23, 24, if not younger. So these things will happen. He's very much an Arsenal player. I know many people, Wenger's not relevant anymore, but he's a player Arsene Wenger would have loved to have managed. He's a player that's needed to have made this move ages ago. And it's not like, I know people, might not be watching French football religiously or Lyon religiously, but it's not like he ain't played against English opposition. He's played against Manchester City a couple of times and done very well. It's going to come down to if we put the money on the table. And I'm all sure you've seen at this point, various media outlets and things are saying this, that and the other and chiming in on this. The bulk of it, initially what you're seeing is that Jules Laurens has even said, you've had RMC Sport, you've had L'Equipe, you've had Julian Laurens. They've all offered their opinions, but the bulk of the rumours which I've found is that first and foremost, talks are still ongoing. There's been confirmation of Arsenal's first offer to Lyon for Houssem Aouar of 35 million euros. Julian Laurens said it won't be enough, but they will come back. Aouar wants to come to Arsenal. There's also talk of personal terms have been agreed with Arsenal, and I assume Houssem Aouar's camp. So the next step is firmly to get, just dot the I's and cross the T's. How much money do they want? How are we going to structure this? Are we going to do it? And obviously with a COVID environment, Lyon probably are going to budge a bit. Lyon, their president Oulas is notoriously a tough negotiator. He won't let players go for money less than he thinks is worth it. You've also heard they're in talks with AC Milan over Lucas Paqueta. Now, him and Aouar aren't exactly the same player, but in terms of being creative, is it a case of when they make some advancements with that move, they'll see some progress without going specifically Aouar. In the same way you hear Torreira going to Atletico, they want to sell, or Hector Herrera wants to leave. If he goes out, do we see some acceleration on the Torreira and Partey front? I'm not too sure. But like I said, first bid apparently has been placed. It's probably likely to be rejected, but I guess it gets the conversation going and it kind of brings us closer towards finding an agreement with Lyon. If personal terms have been agreed and Aouar wants to come, fair play. There are also some reports that say Arteta is the driving force behind this move. Now, on one hand, I don't find that surprising because, he's worked at Man City before. When you see the Jorginho links and the Aouar links, Pep wanted Jorginho. Pep was very high on the praise of Aouar for a number of years. So when you consider, Arteta was there, it doesn't surprise me that we're linked with these players. I don't know if it's genuine, I don't know if it's not. Why I'm not surprised is because he's a first team manager. He has control of the transfers. If he wants attacking players, he should be driving this. If I'm the manager and I'm not a head coach in today's society and I want to address areas, I'm going to be the primary force. Of course there are points, Arteta speaks a lot of languages and he's played in France. Arteta's played in central midfield. You know, Arsenal could be used, as much as I don't want it, as an intermediate step before he goes off to Real Madrid. Obviously, and them teams there. Obviously, he's a French player, so he's bound to have known about Thierry Henry and all of those things. And there's a project in Arteta in itself. You know, why else would Aubameyang sign a new deal when, I don't know if he knows who Bukayo Saka is, but a young promising player there isn't many teams that wouldn't take him based on potential. He's committed his future, so there is some sort of project here that's happening. So I want to see this get done, man. Telefoot has also said that Arteta, like I said, is personally committed to making the deal happen. ESPN said Lyon wanted 60 million for Aouar initially, but with the coronavirus pandemic, it changed the club's financial situations. They have lowered their expectations, with a fee of 40 million or 45 million likely to be enough. So that's right up our street. You know, if we can pay them 35 million euros, you know, add some add-ons, add some stipulations so they get run the money in the same way we did for Pepe and Torreira's deals come to this club. It is what it is. You could argue Aouar is being sold on the cheap from Lyon, and I would say I wouldn't budge on that 60 million release clause that they've put, not release clause, bid, because they will get that. Obviously with the COVID, maybe the other teams won't do that. It seems Pirlo is content with his midfield options. It seems Juventus have other areas. It seems Madrid, I don't know if they're going to buy players, but it doesn't seem like they're looking at that. And Barcelona need to sell before they can buy. So this is all reasons for us to exploit and whatnot, and take advantage of such. And you also have to wonder, has Aouar said, you know what, I am leaving? Because that flips it on its head. He says, I want to leave. You don't want to keep unhappy players there. That's probably why they might budge on their transfer fee. Because this is a man for a couple of summers that's been wanted. You know, arguably since 16 years of age, people have been aware of him and wanted this young man's talent and whatnot. RMC also said Arsenal tried last summer as well, and a deal was there to be done. However, Houssem had no interest in Unai Emery's project. And again, you know, Aouar might not have ever been managed by Emery, but he was there when he was about in French football when he was there at PSG. So we saw firsthand the criticisms and whatnot. Obviously, French players always have a look in the Premier League. Obviously, football is a small world, so he's probably known about Emery. And in the same way, I don't think Aubameyang would have signed a new deal if Emery was still here. I believe this, and you have to wonder how many other players, you know, wanted to come to this club or considered coming, but they saw Unai Emery. And I don't want to say Emery is the reason for people not coming, because it's not fair, but you get the point. For me, I'm ecstatic if we get Aouar, but the fundamental is, no matter how much bids we've placed, no matter how much personal terms are agreed, you know, no matter how much the clubs are negotiating, until I see Arsenal fans tracking that plane, for me, that's until I start really believing it. I am quite happy to see the links. I am ecstatic almost. I am hiding my emotions. But until I start seeing us tracking planes and tracking cars, and, you know, the car is on this side of the road, so he's driving down London Coley, I'm not going to believe it. And it's not going to sink in until I see a man drive through the London Coley training ground, hold the Arsenal shirt and sign the Arsenal contract as well as the Arsenal scarf. But I hope it happens. Like I keep saying, if for whatever reason this Aouar thing or move doesn't happen, go out and get another target. There has to be plan B, plan C's. I mean, Aouar ticks all the boxes. He can be used as an 8. He can be used as a couple of positions in midfield. He can help to dictate the tempo. There is many scopes in his game that can develop. You know, he's not a world-class player yet. There's been periods, even last year, where he kind of went hidden in games and didn't have the best of games. Not just him, everyone. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but Lyon finished 8th or something last year. So it was a testy period. There are at times I think he can make his mark on the team, but I think that's a reason to want to sign for Arsenal. You know, Aubameyang could have went and joined other teams. He thinks he can improve, and he's 30 odd. So what can someone who's in their early mid-20s or whatever, you know, Arteta will help to improve you. So I hope the carrot of trying to help Arsenal go back to where they were, the obviously historical French ties, and the project, both what Arsenal are trying to do in terms of getting back into the top 4, and also whatever Arteta has told him personally, if he has spoken to him, I hope these are reasons to entice him, because there are some bigger clubs interested, but it seems that they've all got other priorities. So, you know, can we take advantage of that? It's a bit like, ironically, Ndombele when he went to Spurs. I was a bit baffled. I was thinking, hang on, you were linked with Barca, you were linked with City, you were linked with Juventus, you were linked with this team, PSG. How do you end up at Spurs? And I have to wonder, did people, you know, did the interest materialise to actual bids? And Spurs' loss, well, their team's losses was Spurs' gain. Obviously, Ndombele ain't having the best of times at Spurs, but if you was watching that Lyon team for a while, man, you know, Bruno Guimaraes is the new one, but you had Aouar, you had Ndombele, you had a couple of players doing their dirt, and they have been a joy to watch. And, you know, Lyon, if they can make over 100 million on Ndombele, and if Aouar leaves, there's talk of obviously Depay going to Barcelona and all these things. I'm not too sure if Lyon will want to sell all of these players because they've got to replace them, but that's not my problem really and truly. I just hope this Aouar thing happens, people. But that's what's the latest in relation to him. Hopefully there's some progress. You know, undoubtedly on Monday after the game, Arteta's probably going to be asked about this. And he might be a bit coy. You know, at first, you know, Arteta's very smart. His language changes, you know. You know, when Arteta starts saying stuff like, oh, I don't want to talk about other players, other teams because disrespectful. He has this smirk on his face. And, you know, he's hardly going to come out and say we are in talks. But you get the point, man. Hopefully we can, because, you know, Aouar he can address an area of the squad that we need. You know, he upgrades our midfield. Obviously, I want him to stay at Arsenal in his peak powers, but we need to realise we're not Real Madrid, we're not Barcelona. So there is also resale value with the purchases of Saliba, Gabriel and Aouar. And, you know, I hope we've used this as, yeah, you could have went to Barcelona and these teams, but would you necessarily play? Now, I back him to play, but would you get the game time you need? That would be the carrot I'm selling him. I'm saying, listen, you come here for 3 years or so, you will become a full, proper France international regular, and if them man there still want you, you know, give us our money, we'll do what we need to do. I can improve you. I hope that's the carrot being dangled over Aouar's head. And, you know, when you link with Barca, Juventus and these teams, it can be a bit of an anticlimax and whatnot. But what I will say is I hope he takes the time to really assess his next move and his decision, and I hope it's Arsenal. But on that note, there's nothing more for me personally to add, so I'm going to keep it moving. It's always a pleasure. DG.